Now, Richard Townley and Kathleen Campion.
At week's end, the Wall Street Journal reported that some congressional Republicans want President Reagan to invite leaders on the Hill to a summit of sorts. The idea is to seize the initiative on the budget and work out a compromise. No official reaction from the White House, but the Journal says the plan has some support at the Office of Management and Budget.
That story comes on the heels of the presidential speech in which Mr. Reagan took responsibility for the Iran-Contra scandal and portrayed himself as busy trying to put the White House in order.
I'm taking action in 3 basic areas: personnel, national security policy, and the process for making sure that the system works. First, personnel. I've brought in an accomplished and highly respected new team here at the White House. They bring new blood, new energy, and new credibility and experience. Former Senator Howard Baker, my new chief of staff, possesses a breadth of legislative and foreign affairs skills that's impossible to match.
Baker and the new team will have to tackle not only the budget, but other tough economic issues, like the trade deficit and sluggish growth.
As if to underscore the GNP problem, the Labor Department said Friday that civilian unemployment was unchanged in February, still 6.7% of the workforce. However, non-farm payrolls rose, with most of the hiring in retail stores and health and business services. Earlier, Washington said factory orders and sales of new homes fell sharply, and the leading indicators fell a sharp 1% in January. The government also revised its December figures to read up 2.3%. Economists said both figures should be taken with a grain of salt. December wasn't all that robust, and January wasn't all that weak.
The U.S. semiconductor industry is weak, and as we reported 2 weeks ago, the chip makers want government help. At that time, Wilfred Corrigan, president of LSI Logic, former head of Fairchild, a major chip maker, supported the idea of an industry consortium.
Yes, it will happen. And it has to be characterized as that is going to be a core manufacturing capability which will feed its developments to the whole industry. That really will be a core infusion of technology to the whole U.S. semiconductor industry. Very similar to the program that was put in place in Japan, what they called the VLSI project.
Updating that story, industry leaders reached agreement Wednesday on a consortium to pioneer new technology, and they appealed to Washington for dollars, perhaps several $100 million of them. Our story also noted industry concern over the purchase of Fairchild by a Japanese chipmaker, Fujitsu. Well, Tuesday, Secretary of Commerce Malcolm Baldrige said that deal will require scrutiny at the highest levels of government.
On a more positive note, Apple unveiled 2 new Macintosh computers. The new PCs, Mac 2 and Mac SE, are state-of-the-art, serious contenders in the small computer sweepstakes. The Mac 2 boasts extensive stereo sound and a color monitor capable of producing 16 million colors and dazzling graphics. Apple will try to sell it to large corporate accounts. The Mac SE is an advanced version of the Mac Plus, aimed at general business and education markets. Both of these new generation computers have what Apple's previous offerings lacked: expandability and compatibility with, you guessed it, IBM. The insider trading investigation is expanding, with reports that the government is asking for information from more than a dozen companies that bought junk bonds in quantity from Drexel Burnham Lambert, and with reports that the SEC is formally investigating Carl Icahn. The Wall Street Journal reports that Robert Freeman, head of arbitrage for Goldman Sachs, engaged in massive trading of stocks that later became takeover targets. That's according to records seized by the government. Freeman, who was arrested at his office last month, has protested his innocence of illegal trading.
Meanwhile, the so-called yuppie insider trading case was back in the news, with 2 participants getting sentenced on criminal charges. Morton Shapiro, 25, a former broker at Mosley Securities, received a prison term of 2 months. Daniel Silverman, 24, a customer of Shapiro's, was put on probation for 3 years. He must also give 200 hours of public service. The government said they profited from information that Michael David stole from his law firm, Paul Weiss Rifkin. David will be sentenced in April. Shapiro and Silverman still face civil penalties. Whoops, the consortium of Pacific Northwest utilities that defaulted on bonds 4 years ago may be charged with securities fraud. That's what the staff of the SEC is recommending. The Washington Public Power Supply System issued bonds to finance 4 nuclear power plants. 2 of the plants were canceled in 1982. Whoops defaulted on more than $2 billion worth of bonds in mid-1983. The SEC staff is now saying Whoops overstated demand for power and misled the public about escalating costs of the projects. An attorney for the system called the investigation an exercise in hindsight. Holders of Whoops defaulted bonds are incidentally still in limbo.
It's rare that an entrepreneur gets a second chance to run his own company, but that's Charles Schwab's story. What now for the discount brokerage pioneer? He'll tell us when we return.
Looks like my IRA is up 40% over the past 5 years.
Found a terrific place for my IRA. It's up 173% over the last 5 years.
173%.
Now understand, this past performance doesn't guarantee 173% for the next 5.
Sure.
It's a conservative fund that's paid dividends every quarter for the past 40 years.
A real all-weather fund.
Right. It's highly diversified, so it's better able to handle market fluctuations. And as part of a large family of funds, you get the flexibility to choose from over 30, all with a simple phone call, 24 hours a day. Plus, there's no sales charge.
What's the name of this fund?
Fidelity's Puritan Fund. A toll-free call will get you a free information kit with everything you need to open or switch your IRA. You also get a free cassette tape from Fidelity on how to manage your IRA.
Free cassette tape? Free information kit?
No sales charge?
An all-weather fund that's up 173%?
It's all in the information kit and free cassette, too.
And free phone call.
Fidelity's Puritan IRA. Thanks.
Drop in anytime.
Call 1-800-245-9000.
The Redman TNT All-American Pulling Series roars into Cleveland Saturday, March 21st, Richfield Coliseum. Coors Beer presents the 11th annual Nationwide Pull-A-Rama. 3 classes of the most powerful sport on earth. Plus, witness the pure brute force of Hercules and the incredible Stomper Bully in action. Nationwide and WOIO 19 want to save you $2 off adult tickets to the 2 p.m. show. Get your discount coupon at any of the 26 Cleveland area Nationwide auto parts stores.
If you don't mind a little wet paint, you'll save money during the pre-opening sale of our new store at 1580 Park Avenue West in Mansfield. Pre-opening savings to 45% at all carpet barns. 6 months same as cash on quality queen carpet featuring Monsanto wear-dated Ultron nylon. Carpet pad and installation at one low price and our 10-year warranty. Savings to 45% at the newest carpet barn in Mansfield and all other stores in Greater Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Elyria, and Sandusky.
Bank of America continues to sell off assets. This week, it signed a letter of intent to sell its German consumer bank and credit card operations to a Spanish bank group. Earlier, the troubled California bank sold its highly profitable Charles Schwab discount brokerage back to the company's founder. Schwab, the entrepreneur who started the company in 1971, had chafed under the Bank of America ownership, which began in 1983. We talked to him in his San Francisco office.
Our company has been very fortunate. We've had a very high growth rate for a long period of time. We grew at about 40% per annum before we merged with the Bank of America, and we've continued that pace the last 3.5, 4 years. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to propel our growth even more so in the years ahead, because we're going to be free sort of those very restrictive Glass-Steagall National Banking Act rules that confine banks to a certain area of